Hey, what's up? This is Khaliq again. And another question that I get asked all the time is, what's the best way for me to learn how to use compressors? Okay. And this is a huge subject because it's one of the most baffling parts of what we do as engineers and producers and everything. Compressors are always usually everybody I talk to, it's the last thing that you finally just kind of, okay, I get it after a lot of years and trial and error. So I'm going to try to give you a couple of things to think about, to maybe save you a bit of time, but there's no substitute for just getting in and playing with them and hearing what they do. So the first thing I want you to do, though, before we even grab a compressor, is when you got your music and you're listening to a sound that you're thinking about putting a compressor on, I want you to, before you even look at your DAW wave, try to envision the wave in your mind, the way it is before anything is happening. Listen to the music and kind of envision the wave. If it's drums, envision that spike, and if it's got a room tail, envision how that tail is tailing off. If it's a synth or a guitar playing, envision the pick coming on and what that waveform would look like, and then envision how the rest of the sound is coming out. You know, the attack is the most identifying thing of any sound, and it's how we can tell the difference of things. So envision what that sound wave is in your mind so that you can kind of get an idea that isn't dependent on what you see on the screen in your DAW. That way you lock in what you're hearing and what your mind will start seeing. And then the second part is once you have envisioned how the sound is, envision how you want it to be. You know, just get in your mind, okay, if the attack, you've got this vision of your mind and the attack is spiking up too much, you got this mental picture in your mind, and you think, okay, I want to smooth that off a little bit. You know, that sound doesn't need to be that attacky and pointed. So imagine how that'd be if it was rounded off a bit. Or conversely, if you had something and you needed more attack and smack, imagine how that would poke out. How would you make it poke out and then suddenly come out? Imagine what that waveform will look like. Okay, this is before you even put anything on, because if you know, then when you put something on, you'll know exactly how to start going to tame it. Okay, so once you've done that, grab any compressor. Doesn't matter at first, you know. Grab any stock compressor, something that you know that came with your DAW. Just grab it and put it on and start playing with it to try to sculpt that sound the way you envisioned it. Put it on and then do what I did in the previous tip and told you, dramatically and drastically try changing some things and playing with it to see what it does and how it affects the sound, and then take it off as far as putting it into back at zero default settings, and then start finding a way to ease it in to shape the sound that you envisioned. Okay, then here's the key on compressors. So do you see a lot of the things, you know, compressors usually have, you know, threshold, ratio, gain reduction, attack, release, and whatever else it might have on there depending on the brand that you got. But mainly pay attention to threshold is like the most important, I would say. The threshold, because that's, if the threshold isn't catching it, doesn't matter what how all the other things are set, because if the threshold isn't catching it and set in the right place where it's coming down from the ceiling and down into the sound, it's not doing anything. So you can turn all the other stuff all you want. If the threshold isn't set right, it doesn't matter where the other stuff is because it's not kicking in yet. Okay, so the threshold is the most important thing to learn and get a handle on. Play with that and see where it is. Play with squash and stuff down as much as you can with that threshold. That's taking the ceiling, just pushing it down so that the sound just bumps up against it. You know, you give it from up here, but you can say, no, I don't want you to go no more than here. Play with it and see what it sounds like. Play with opening up the other controls, you know, the ratios, the attack, release, and then see how that does in combination with the threshold. Then the next thing that helps you, and I think this is very important too. A lot of people don't pay attention to it, but it's very, very important. It gives you a lot of information. Watch the gain reduction meters. That'll tell you a whole lot about what's happening with the song. It'll tell you when the thing is catching, how much it's doing, if it needs to do it, and what kind of rhythm it's doing its thing on. So if it's going to throw your song or whatever, that gain reduction meter is very important. Now the other things we'll get to in other things and deeper trainings and all that, but I wanted to pass this on as something that you can do as quick starts if you're trying to learn how to train your ears to use compressors better. Work and focus mainly on really mastering what the threshold is doing, and watch the gain reduction meters, and then use it in combination with ratio, attack and release, and all the other things, you know. But the main thing is your mind. Use your mind to shape the sound before you put anything on and before you turn any knob. If you get a visual of what you want it to sound like in your mind's ear first, then you can find a way to craft it with it, whatever you want. And I said it doesn't matter what compressor you want, because you just want to get something that's going to start doing the job to craft the sound. Then you can go into brands and try other different types of brands. You know, if you want to put an opto compressor on, or something that is fast attack solid state like 1176, you can do all that stuff later on. Something that'll add character and grunge to it, or something that's clean and invisible. You can make those choices later, but in the very beginning, grab anything, put it on, and try to shape the sound the way you imagine it up here. Anyway, that's all for you today, and I'll see you on the next one. Oh, go to mixingacademy.com, and you can get a free silver membership if you want to get more tips. This tip will be included in there, and a lot of other ones, and you'll be able to get a free silver members access for a limited amount of time. So go there and jump on. Catch you later. Bye.